evening and good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Tonight we put the spotlight on economy. We're just a few days away from budget to be announced, the union budget, and this one is going to be the most crucial. After an unprecedented year, all eyes are on the government and the finance minister on what it is that they can deliver to really usher in a new era. An era where not just we fight COVID with a vaccine, but we also look to restart our economy and to take it in a new direction. But as hopeful as we are, we must also be realistic of how grim the situation is right now. For example, former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan in this exclusive conversation that he's had with Times Network. Now, we spoke to him about a series of issues related to the economy and even the possible impact of a second wave of COVID or the UK variant on how it brings about uncertainty for our economy as well. And I'm going to play out an excerpt of that conversation for you. But before that, I want to tell you that of that conversation, and basis a lot of other projections and statistics that we've got in the last few days, tonight I'm going to focus one more time on unemployment. It was one of our biggest issues before we went into the COVID year. We were already struggling with a high level of unemployment, a 40-year high that we had touched, remember, 1.5 years ago. And the lockdown just made things worse. Yes, there has been a bit of a turnaround. We aren't in as bad a shape as we were, say, 6 or 8 months ago. But realistically speaking, it's a long, tough road ahead. Raghuram Rajan says employment in the informal sector has been heavily impacted by the pandemic and that recovery is only likely by the fourth quarter of 2022. So it's essentially a year away. Listen.
Pandemic has much greater effect on the informal sector, the small and medium enterprises, the ones that don't have deep resources. And the question is how much has both the lockdown as well as the social distancing measures after that affected these enterprises? Certainly, when you look at formal employment, it's down significantly. But informal employment is probably down much more. And guesstimates are, maybe 18 million people are unemployed right now relative to what they were before the pandemic hit. So I think I'm in your camp that we will see a strong wave of growth. I mean, any country has to grow after being down, 25% of GDP. We will see a rebound. The question is, what are we doing to make up the lost ground? The World Bank estimates we will have lost $900 billion of GDP by the time this is over. Now, I don't know how good those estimates are, but that is 1/3 of GDP. How long will it take to reach the track we were on before the pandemic? Now, for the US, people say sometime in the second quarter of this year, we will be back. For India, my guess is we probably will not be back till late next year, 2022, to where we might have been, before the pandemic. And of course, then to make up the ground that we lost, because we were growing at 4-5% before then. So that's a line which is going up, and we need to go back to that line. It will take a little longer. So my sense is we go back to status quo ante sometime, late this year or early next year, and then we make up further lost ground over the course.
He also raised multiple issues. Some of them you heard, that the employment in the informal sector has been hit heavily, 80 million jobs lost. Doesn't expect a full recovery before the fourth quarter of 2022, that we need to ensure recovery, but jobs for millions. And prioritizing spending is key for budget. We've been saying this for a while, and over the course of next 2 weeks, we'll get you lots of voices on what their view is about how the government should go about this budget planning. Raghuram Rajan says we need reforms that will help fix the economy. Jhatka of the pandemic created problems for SMEs. A second wave, of course, is a major uncertainty for the economy. But let me also tell you, while this is one part, what is it the statistics are showing us right now? We constantly track the numbers that CMIE puts out. They track the employment data on a month-to-month basis. And again, if you look at the data that's come in for the month of December, unemployment rate has shot up over 9% one more time. So while there was a bit of a relief a couple of times in between after the lockdown opened and during the festival season, we seem to have again dropped when it comes to number of jobs being given. The other aspect is this estimates on our own growth that has been put out by Fitch Ratings. Now, Fitch estimates that in this year, our economy will contract by 9%. This is slightly more pessimistic than some of the others who've estimated it to be 7% for this year, contraction. But Fitch also says then for the next year, the growth could be 11%. Keep in mind the base effect. When you say minus 9% for this year, the next year's numbers do look much better at 11%. Where do we stand? And how grave is the unemployment situation right now in our country, especially in the informal sector? How long will it take for revival? Let's ask our experts who are joining us this evening. Gopal Krishnan Agarwal, National Spokesperson for the BJP. Yamini Iyer, President and Chief Executive of the Centre for Policy Research. Mr. V.R. Sharma, MD for Jindal Steel and Power Limited, joins us this evening. Abhijit Sen, former Professor of Economics at JNU. Professor Aman Agarwal, Director and Professor at the Indian Institute of Finance. Great to have all of you with us. Let me actually start with a sense of how really the manufacture sector is functioning right now. Mr. V.R. Sharma, if you could give us an insight into that, post the lockdown as factories reopen, businesses restart, how much of the people have been able to get their jobs back?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm pleased to inform you that the steel industry is working at its rated capacity, I think 95 to 100%. There are no labor cuts and there are no layoffs. People, those who have been working with us since last year, they are all working. We have not retrenched anybody, and neither we retrench some people nor we reduce their salaries or wages. So everything is on streamline. Though there was a problem in the early part of the financial year, that is April, May, June, because many of the people, they have migrated to their hometowns and home states. That created some problem, but by June, July, this became a little normal, and now it is absolutely normal. There's no problem. But we are seeing that our MSMEs customers, they are still facing problem because many of the people, they have not come back to their workplaces. That is an issue. And if you see in the urban areas, the manpower is not available today, neither for the construction nor for some other jobs or miscellaneous jobs. So this is an issue where we requested Government of India to please start Indian Railway as fast as possible. This is one. Number two, we also requested Government of India, please go for one Bharat, one electricity tariff policy, so that in the entire nation, there is one electricity tariff that is maybe 3 rupees 50 paisa or maximum 4 rupees, and so that the companies or the MSMEs, they can put up their plants in any part of the country. Today, we have 32 different tariffs in the country. These 32 tariffs should be made one tariff. There's just last point I'll tell you. We have a great amount of strength of HNIs, those who are very high net worth individuals. They are taxed very heavily today at a rate of about 39 to 40% in total. I think Government of India should come with a proposal that the people, those who are in HNI bracket, if they put up some organization, some entrepreneurship they show, and they employ some 5-10 people, then I think this unemployment issue can be resolved to a great extent.
Okay, that's an interesting suggestion as well that you've made, Mr. Sharma. But let me ask you this, since you said that a lot of the steel plants have pretty much got back to, functioning at 95% capacity. Where is this demand coming from? Where are you actually seeing more demand, and where are we still struggling in terms of your own clients struggling to get some business?
Yes, a very valid question. There are two kind of demands which has come up. One is the pent-up demand, as Mr. Nirmala Sitharaman declared last month that there was a pent-up demand, and this is the reason we have achieved a overall GST collection of 1,15,000 crores. This is one region. The other region is the infrastructure projects have been launched very well, and the steel is going to all of these infrastructure projects. The third region for the huge demand is because of the lockdown situation and because of the COVID, internationally the steel mills were down and they were running at a level about 35 to 40%. And today China has already taken a V-shaped recovery. They used to consume about 80 to 90 million tons per month. Now they are consuming about 105 million tons per month. So that demand has created a vacuum. The countries, those who are importing steel from China, they are now banking upon the countries like India, Iran, and Russia. So since Iran is under sanctions, so not many countries, they do business with Iran. So, because of the weather conditions and because of the port constraints, Russia is also a second priority. So India has become a very hot spot to buy steel by all of the international players. So this has driven the demand phenomenally, and that's the reason the Indian steel industry is doing extremely well.
Okay, let me bring in other views as well. And Yamini Iyer, I'll start with you. In terms of various kinds of data that we are picking up to put a consolidated picture together, what's your own sense as far as unemployment crisis is concerned? It was a huge challenge before we went into this unprecedented year. Now, how much worse are we now?
You see, the unemployment today in the
Mr.
country...
Sharma, I'll just take that question across to Yamini Iyer and I'll come back to you. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think the unemployment challenge is the gravest challenge that the Indian economy confronts. As you rightly said, unemployment was already at a significant low going into the pandemic. And even after the lockdown, currently we are at a point where economic activity has more or less reached pre-pandemic levels. Mobility data seems to suggest that, yet employment levels have not. We saw we saw an increase right after the lockdown, but as the data you showed from CMI points out, the unemployment rate has not yet even reached pre-pandemic levels. This is a very, very serious concern. India had always confronted the challenge of an economic growth model that tended towards growth over employment, opening itself up to deep inequality. And I think that the widening of inequality consequent to the pandemic is going to be the most significant fallout of the pandemic that the Indian economy has to confront head on. If you dive into the unemployment data, I think one of the really important and worrying signs on the informal sector, and some of CMI's first wave data shows this in sharp relief, is the extent to which even within the informal economy, you see a shift in labor market trends away from employment to self-employment. A significantly larger number of informal workers classifying themselves as self-employed, which gives you an indicator of how much economic recovery is taking place absent job recovery. To my mind, the answers to this problem lie in what we have not done from the word go, which is to ensure that we provide expansive fiscal support, deepening public investment in infrastructure, and a much, much more robust social protection safety net system. NREGA has been the lifeline of the rural economy. You see that NREGA demand even today is at 50% plus more than pre-pandemic levels year-on-year comparison. There is an urgent need to look into this in the urban context as well. And I think that's what this budget should really focus on. If we don't address the employment challenge, any kind of recovery in terms of GDP is not going to resolve the deep crisis that India confronts.
Okay, it's an interesting point that you made about a lot of people who would have lost jobs in the informal sector now going in the self-employment kind of a category. Yes, would that necessarily be a bad thing as long as they're able to earn a livelihood?
So the most Indians earn for subsistence.
Yes.
The option of not earning or falling out of the job market doesn't exist. When sources of employment of casual wage labor, wage work do not exist, then they tend towards self-employment. It's subsistence. It's usually it is a family or family-based activity, perhaps at most one employed, and income levels are extremely low. So no, in fact, this is a very deep sign of serious concern. It certainly does not mean that all of India is suddenly becoming large-scale entrepreneurs. So it needs to be understood from the point of view of what self-employment means in the real economy in India.
Okay, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, would you like to come in here, because this is the big part of the problem that we've been talking about for a while, and it's getting more and more prominent now.
If you look into the economy and discuss anything on the economy, you have to see, because a pandemic has created a lot of problems, and Indian economy also is facing such kind of problems. So whenever anybody is talking about certain problems in the economy, I don't deny them. I accept that the problems are existing, and employment is one of the major challenge. But with that, what we have to discuss is the government doing something about that, and what the government doing is right or not? That's very important, because now the focus is on strong recovery in the coming years, and is government helping that recovery? So I'll give you some examples where the government is taking great initiative and they are bringing a result. One thing is, I agree with Yaminji on partly that a lot of people have lost their job and moved to the self-employment. Government focus has also been there. Even there is a strong scheme by the central government about Redi Wala, Patri Wala, unorganized sector. Even FPO is being promoted. So that is one area where self-employment we are focusing on, so that unorganized sector, which has felt the burnt of this economic contraction, get some support. Second thing is, as far as government spend is concerned, government is continuously going for large-scale infrastructure development, and that we see that all the basic raw material, there is a huge demand, and their prices has gone up. We have even got concern from the manufacturing sector that basic raw material, steel, cement, plastic, copper, aluminium, all prices have gone almost 20 to 30%. So what the concern for the government now is to control that price. Nitin Gadkari ji has also told this, and I have also been talking that one of the important concern is bringing this price down so that the manufacturing gets out of the problem that they are facing because of rise. So this is because of rising price from the investment. That is one healthy sign. Third point that I would like to mention here is about Amit Shah ji told about the coal, which can be one of the important generator for the economic growth. Fourth, that I would like about yesterday, government has gone out for opening up the defense sector for the manufacturing. That is important. That government has taken care that 100 items for the defense manufacturing will be specifically reserved for the small scale manufacturing sector. And another point that I would like to, you must have all heard that this railway corridor, freight corridor, they are doing wonderful. The cost where we are focusing is bring down the cost of logistics, cost of transportation. So our focus on infrastructure, rail freight, roadways, waterways, etc. We target to bring down the logistic cost to almost 40%. So our industries become competitive. That is another area that I would like to say. And if you look into the 3 months data for this PMI data, it is more than 50%. It shows that there is expansion in the manufacturing activity. And this budget, we are very carefully looking into the particular sectors that those are feeling strong the difficulty that the government will help. And now we from 16th we will we are happy that we will be having vaccination mega
Right.
vaccination program, and you see that is being shown in the stock market result. I don't consider stock market as the only barometer, but it is one of the
Yes, please
important.
don't. And let's not really consider the stock market as a barometer
No,
of,
I'm not taking one factor, Tanvi. I'm
anything
talking
great
about so
which may be
many
happening out
factors.
on our economy front, because it's an all-time high while our economy is still contracting. So, but I take the other points that you've made.
That shows that there is a confidence of investors in the
No, sir,
economy.
Mr. Gopal Agrawal, you and I on another day can have a very detailed conversation about the factors at play when it comes to trading and money making in the stock markets. There is no only single factor link with the economy there.
Don't pick up one factor and then say because this factor you do not agree, therefore all other factors, even logistic cost, steel demand, moving.
I'm not saying that. So let's pick up a few of the other points that you made. Efforts that are being made to make life easier, to make it cheaper for corporates to set up new plants, to grow their businesses, to reduce the logistics costs. Let's pick up those points.
And we are committed
but
to
on the other side,
reform also.
Yes, okay. But on the other side, and this is where, you know, I always ask this question, that what's the point if we start investing money in setting up these plants? Will it help if people aren't buying and if there is no demand in the market for any of it? How do you fix that problem? Mr. Abhijit Sen, good evening to you.
If you should see the growth of e-commerce, Tanviji, there is a huge market through the e-commerce. FMCG is doing performing very well.
Yes, because the malls are empty, Mr. Gopal Agrawal. Because the malls are empty.
Car, Maruti and the Hyundai, they are 3
So you are saying everything is fine with the consumer demand? Is that what you're saying?
No,
we are getting back.
Economy is moving in the right direction.
Okay, sure, of course.
We are doing good, and we will definitely grow in the next year.
Yes, yes. Okay, Mr. Abhijit Sen, your view on this, how much our focus needs to be on creation of demand as we also look at the supply part of it?
Well, almost 100%. Let's put it this way. I think we've reached the stage in the pandemic cycle where the supply side restrictions coming from a lockdown are totally off. And given that, the only way in which you have a rebound is not by further relaxation on that particular aspect of the supply side, but on demand. Now, demand has been our problem for some time. Investment demand has been going down for the last 3 years, and somewhat more, and consumer demand has plummeted over the pandemic period, which is not unexpected. And the only thing which is holding it up is government demand to a large extent. The government has, however, been rather tight-fisted compared to governments all over the world. The extent of fiscal stimulus that has been given in India is very, very small compared to almost any other country in the world. Not surprisingly, our GDP performance is also not commensurate with what is happening in the rest of the world. We seem to be much more concerned about what credit rating agencies might say about our fiscal position rather than about the economy per se, because I think at the moment, everybody would agree that the demand side problem is the problem, as you rightly pointed out. However, let me just say one more thing. I think it's not just the demand side problem. It is the way the demand side problem is also being filtered by the structure of the economy. There has been some discussion just now about the MSME sector. Now, normally what happens is that when the corporate sector is not doing very well, the MSME sectors actually lead the way out. And the corporate sector takes over as the economy gets going. The MSME sector is usually, and I'm saying in normal times, look at the last 20 or 30 years, they are quicker to move, provided, of course, they can move. Unfortunately, the MSME sector has been battered and battered and battered. It started with demonetization, it happened with the GST, and then it happened with the pandemic. There are many, many units which will never recover, unfortunately. The whole good thing about the MSME sector used to be, I'm not talking about self-employed, I'm talking about small firms which employ 5, 10, 15 people. And those firms are now seeing not just a mortality rate, but what is worse is recovery rates are very, very poor. Now, what that means, of course, is that the employment effects of any recovery are filtering into the economy very slowly. And if the employment effect filters in very slowly, any recovery is really then what? It's essentially profits of one kind or the other. And profits of one kind or the other will not be spent as quickly as consumption, say, of wage workers who've been out of work. If you put a wage worker back to work, that guy is going to spend most of the additional money. If you give the money to a corporate sector, which is seeing investment demand still low, the guy will ramp up production, but might not do much investment, in which case your demand is zilch.
Correct.
And that's where I see the real problem with this economy. And because of the reluctance of the government so far to have actually opened its fiscal weapons and fired them, I think this is going to be a long haul. It's not going to be V-shaped. Some parts of it will be V-shaped in terms of production. But as far as employment goes, and as far as the underlying structure of the Indian economy goes, it's going to take 2 years at least.
So in the first half, we've largely spoken about the state of economy and especially on on the large scale manufacturing and the informal sector. I also want to talk about the organized sector and what's happened there, the way the companies have actually realigned themselves this year, and if there is going to be a long-term impact of that. Before that, Mr. Gopal Agarwal wanted to make a point. Go ahead, please.
One thing, everybody is talking about employment and focus of the government on employment. I just want to say that employment focus will come from manufacturing and agriculture sector. They are the two areas which can create lot of employment. If the government focus is on increasing manufacturing sector and government focus is on creating investment into the agriculture sector through value addition, food processing industries, etc., then only employment comes. So ultimately, if our focus is on agriculture and manufacturing, our focus is on employment on every aspect. I just want.
Okay, let's talk about the other aspect. And Mr. Sharma, we've seen in this year gone by, if you look at most of the corporates and the way they've performed, a lot of their survival and protecting their books has come from cost cutting, has come from realigning the way business is done, which is also obviously in a large sense meant that we find easier, simpler, cheaper ways to do the same business, sometimes at the cost of letting go of people. Will that also have a long-term impact? Why would any company now want to go to an earlier design where you need more people to put the same kind of output?
Yes, you're right. In some of the sectors, people feel that the cost cutting is a very vital area. And when it is a cost cutting, people, they go for reducing the manpower. But in steel industry, it is reverse. Whenever we feel that there is a pressure, then we want to ramp up the production if the market is supporting. So in our case, in the steel industry, it is a little different. And as you know, today the steel is in short supply, and the demand has already outstripped or outperformed the production. That's why each and every steel industry today is working as to how to increase production. And we were at a level of about 75 to 80% during lockdown period. And some of the companies, they were running at 45 to 50%. And during the Q2, that is June, July, August, we reached to a level of about 90 or 92%. And Q3, that is October, November, December, we reached to about 98 or 100%. The entire industry average, if you see, then the entire steel industry, major 5 steel plants in the country, they are at a level of about 95 or 96%. So here we are not discussing the cost cutting at the cost of reducing manpower. Rather, we are employing more manpower now so that we can ramp up the production further. The country needs at least 120 million ton steel. And this year our production will be only 90 million ton. So there will be net shortfall about 30 million ton. And this is what we have been discussing with the government. We have been discussing with the mining ministry that the iron ore should be made available, coal should be made available so that we can generate more employment. And most of the steel plant people, they are looking for the brownfield project expansions. Here we have requested Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, that she has given the tax benefits to the new industries, those who are going to install new plants, and from 25% to 15% will be corporate tax. This is where we are requesting them, please don't isolate the brownfield projects. We are requesting them that you allow us, as a brownfield industry, you allow us to go for the expansions and you give us all those benefits what you are extending to the newcomers. And if you give us this 15% of corporate tax advantage, then we can do many expansions and we can generate employments in lakhs and lakhs of manpower. And the moment the industry like steel, it is a core sector industry, steel or cement, they work, then a lot of MSMEs or a lot of downstream industry, they get their business, and many people get the employment. So 2 takeaways from here. One is Government of India must allow the brownfield projects to come up, and the tax benefits should be given, extended to the brownfield projects also. Number 2, One Bharat, One Electricity will change the nation. Today, I'm sorry to say that in a large country like ours, when we are selling power to the grid at 2 rupees and 50 paisa maximum per unit, whereas in Tamil Nadu, people are getting that power at a price of 15 rupees per unit, UP is 10 rupees per unit, Maharashtra is 12 rupees per unit, and so on and so on. So we have 32 different states and united
different tariffs. Yes.
So each and everybody is having a different power tariff.
Right.
So this is what we need from Government of India.
Okay, let's see if this gets factored in as far as the budget announcements are concerned. Just a clarification, yes, for our viewers to understand, greenfield projects is essentially completely new projects that any industry would like to set up and start afresh. And what Mr. Sharma is saying, the support which is needed for many of these industries are for brownfield projects, where there is already an existing setup, but you want to add to it, and you need incentives from the government to do this, to that. Yes, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, go ahead.
Briefly, I would just like to tell from Mr. Sharma and other thing is, as industry has lot of demand, middle class income people have lot of demand from the government, manufacturing has lot of demand. Government also has certain demand from the people. They should stand for reforms, because if you are talking what Mr. Sharma is talking about, power sector reforms, how much hue and cry it will create. It will create, everybody may be put to certainly all restrictions. At 3 point, I just briefly would like to mention here, this production linked incentive scheme is bringing very good results, and we are going to expand this in many more industries. That is also bringing good results. GST figures for the last 3 months showing that there is a huge growth and good results.
Right.
And the third point that I would like to mention is that virtual e-assessment is now taken up, and it is completely, though it is create certain procedural problems have been and technological hiccups are there, but it will completely eliminate the corruption which industries and common men were always facing with the income tax department. They don't know, people for the assessee doesn't know who he's filing return with, and even the assessing officer does not know whose return. So that is completely only way through which the large scale corruption in the income tax department will go. Next year, I'll tell you, I am a chartered accountant, I tell you, it will bring a huge difference in ease of doing business for and paying tax.
Okay, I'm a taxpayer. Next year we will have a conversation about our experiences with you, Mr. Agarwal, and then see where we've reached. Absolutely, completely with an open mind, I'm saying this. Professor Agarwal wanted to make a point as well on this before I go back to Abhijit Sen. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Tanvi. I think, just to add on, but I must say that, what Gopal said and what my previous speaker said, they need to be still reforms, because in terms of electricity, there is a binding of minimum consumption which is there, which does not allow people to save, because if you save, you are still penalized, especially in Uttar Pradesh and various other states, for not consuming electricity, which is being done by electricity providers. Secondly, I think the banks also need to play a more proactive role. Instead of misleading RBI rules, which are being done by these days, especially with current accounts. I have come across a recent case only today, wherein the bank is saying that we'll close your current account because you have an OD running in another bank account, where the OD is only to the tune of only about 25-30 lakhs or so. And they're going to close the current account, and they're given a deadline of either you close the OD. Now, if that is the way businesses are going to run, how will companies, and Gopal would know, he's a chartered accountant himself, how would companies run who have, small MSMEs, who have small loans ranging from anywhere between 1 to 2 crores, and the RBI guidelines is only for new accounts, whereas where I was there on Lok Sabha TV when this thing was launched in August. But I'm shocked to see that the banks are mischievously playing this role, which will actually curb growth as against induce growth. And this is what has happened in the past also, where at the grassroots level, banks ultimately throttle the growth which the government is trying to bring in, and even the RBI is trying to do by giving wrong information.
Okay, so let me ask you this follow-up question, because you raised this point. We also can't be in denial, Professor Agarwal, of the state of the banks. They are in a very precarious situation itself. Many of them have had to be rescued by the government and the RBI just in the last couple of years. We don't even know how bad the situation is right now, because they're not declaring the bad loans, and they won't for another 6 months. So only 6 months later maybe we'll find out. So can we really blame the banks right now for being so strict or careful or hesitant?
No, it is, Tanvi, please understand. I appreciate what you're saying, but that is not in India only. That is across the globe, around the world, where this banking situation is erupting because of the COVID scenario, the kind of is coming up. But the issue here is, if you tell an account runner that I will not allow you to have a current account, which is functional, and you tell him that you close either your OD account or you close his current account, how are you trying to tell him that he should stop doing business, he should run out, he should close his accounts and then do the work? And this is something which is very critical. My colleague from the industry would understand this very well, that it is not easy to just go about closing accounts. I'm talking of a small organization which has only a loan of 30 lakhs against which they are given a collateral of over 1 crore to the bank. So there is no scare at all. And on the other hand, the bank officer comes up and says, you submit all these documents in 2 days, otherwise we are shutting down your current account, which is the operational account. Now, if you do that, the businesses will die. They cannot function. And as if the businesses don't function, this 18 million job loss will turn out to be over 100 million job loss, because the MSME segment is the largest employer of the people across the country, not only in India, but even in each part of the world.
Okay,
So this is
you know,
where
just to
I mean, we've done everything in that sequencing in the wrong order.
Okay, it's a very interesting point that you've made. Let me bring in Yamini here as well and see what she has to say about it, and then Gopal Agarwal can respond to it. Would you agree that a lot of the revival that we've seen right now is coming from the large industries, but the pain which is there in the smaller segment, in the SME segment, is still not getting addressed?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think the data is there there is no debate, because the data is telling us what's actually happening in the real economy. And I think the challenge that we confront right now, especially coming up in the opportunity perhaps that is presented by virtue of the fact that we are heading into a new budget, is to recognize this head on, recognize for whatever reasons the government has chosen to keep its fiscal purse tightly closed. It's time to open it up. We've already been we're already in a position, because I think in my view, we delayed opening up our the fiscal purse generously, as we ought to have right at the start of this pandemic. Things may have looked different, but there's still an opportunity, and it's time to take that opportunity, realize where the economy is. I think that we have to think about this in two phases. There is still a lot of relief that needs to be provided in order to ensure that the current crisis of employment and the current structural pathway of recovery that we are taking doesn't lead itself to further distress for the informal economy, which is already teetering at the edge of distress. This means generous social protection, and at the same time, far more in focused attention at both bank recapitalization, addressing the transmission issues that would allow the small and micro enterprise, medium enterprises in MSME sector to really lead the way. Any growth that is based, as it currently is, on a corporate on corporate recovery is not going to address the core fundamental challenge that the economy confronts today. Don't forget, this is not a new challenge. It is part of the structural challenge of the Indian economy. The pandemic has just brought it out in very, very sharp relief. We need to fix it urgently.
Mr. Gopal Agarwal, is there a sense within the party, at least, if not the government, that yes, for what many experts have been saying for 9 months, perhaps the government needs to put out more money, give a bigger stimulus, in actual terms of stimulus, and not the indirect ways that we've seen so far, and spend more money? We haven't even spent the money this year as much as we did last year.
Tanviji, I would like to mention, taking cue from Mr. Sen also, that when there is a resource constraint, you put your money where it is money multiplier is higher. So government has used that strategy. I am very sure that large corporate industries, etc., could government thought that they will be able to sustain through credit availability, and RBI has done exemplary work by pushing liquidity into the system. It has helped two ways: that it has given credit, and also have with liquidity there is an increase in demand also that we see in many of the industries. I gave you one example, that car sales have, car manufacturers have their 3 years manufacturing book full. So one thing. Second thing is, the government has surely a constraint about resources. Our fiscal deficit is already almost crossing 6%. So that we should also keep in mind. Second thing is the borrowing, which we wanted to, debt to GDP ratio, we wanted to keep it low, but still it is quite more than 87%, and government is not keeping this as a constraint. It is continuously going to spend more money, put money into infrastructure, etc. But this has to be kept in mind. Another point that I also want to say that we are well aware that many of the unorganized sectors still need lot of hand-holding from the government. Unorganized sector has seen the largest pinch from this endemic, and we are surely going to help that unorganized sector. So unorganized sector is our focus. Middle class income, middle income group, neo middle class will also be a area where they may need more support from our budget side this time. But ultimately, if you look into the overall recovery path that the government has taken, we have pushed a lot of money, whichever into the lower middle class, where even Mr. Sen said that they will spend most of the money that they get, and therefore that pushing the money in the first and second tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat into the rural economy has given a positive growth rate of in the agriculture sector, even when there is a large scale contraction of 3.5% in the agriculture sector, and money has been pushed, and therefore we have seen, though there is a difficult time for people in losing their job, but still with one ration, one nation, extending free rations,
Yeah, a lot of
Mandeka,
that, Mr. Agarwal, while I completely agree with you that the government did all of that and pulled out and pushed out
and
these
we are
many
going
schemes.
to do a lot more.
A lot of them were actually
We are going to do a lot
survival
more.
steps, then revival. And now we need to go to the next step, which is the revival part. But let me ask you this, because you said when the resources are constrained, you need to decide and choose where you put your resources. Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan in his interview also said that he is a little surprised that the government has not used this opportunity that you yourself were talking about, the stock markets, the highs that the stock market has touched, but you've not used this opportunity to sell some of your stakes, disinvest and bring in that money. Should you not be selling right now to get in that money and use it for infrastructure spending?
Tanviji, I would like to mention here, I have said that in India, economic narration are not at all conducive to right decision by the government. I agree with you that even though the stock market has gained a lot, it is crossing all limits on the upper circuit. But the valuation to the public sector undertakings is abysmally low. Is it because of governance issues in the public sector undertaking, or the policy of disinvestment? There are complicated issues I can discuss in length, but one thing I'll tell you that PSU disinvestment can only take place when there is a large scale consensus in the public. Stock market doesn't absorb bad companies. If you want to sell Air India now, who is going to buy? So
no, but when you set out with a target, and I'm not just talking about this year because this was unprecedented year, but even before that, when you set out your disinvestment targets, did you not know that this sentiment is not there?
No, this endemic was not discounted, but definitely in the next year we are discussing a lot on the disinvestment policy. But one thing I would like to mention here before you stop me from talking about is about the Raghuram Rajan. He's a perennial critical of this current government since he lost his job. Then he talks about more, he's so much influenced by Rahul Gandhi politics that he forgets that he is economist and he should not selectively quote data. And that I don't agree, because you don't.
He's not the only former RBI governor who's been critical of your government. May I just point that out?
Tanvi,
his predecessors and his successors collectively, Mr. Gopal Agarwal. I don't need to sit here and defend any of them.
10 seconds.
But I think it's unfair to really draw parallels with his thought process and Rahul Gandhi's, considering where all Raghuram Rajan has worked and contributed to. It would be a disservice. Completely out of time though. I thank you so much to all of our panelists. This is just the beginning of many conversations that we're going to have in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks actually, in the run up to the budget and once the announcement is out. A lot of what Gopal Agarwal said today was extremely encouraging on at least the government being cognizant of where all the pain points are and where the government needs to do a lot more and what the expectations are about the budget announcements. But let's wait and watch how it proceeds. It's going to be tricky. Many demands, many wishes, because everybody's gone through a tough time in 2020 and so everybody's looking towards the government for some or the other kind of support. Resources are still constrained. Tax collections, while they have improved, are still not great. So the government will have to figure out smart ways of reviving this economy and supporting the industry at the right places for bringing us back on the growth path. And that also means jobs creation. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.